All right, so this is going to be a fascinating conversation. We have some absolutely fantastic guests here. Let me begin with you, Ms. Prabhleen. You know, this conversation about creative industries as startups, this is a fairly new conversation, but as I said, it's a fascinating one, whether it's design, tech, gaming, music. You find mention of these industries, as viable startups in policy, in government schemes, conversations you hear in boardrooms. Where does this conversation stand as of today? Is it still fairly novel for India, or do you see us making great strides in that direction?
Thanks for the question. I would like to start by talking about the fact that in 2022 is when the government really put their focus on the AVGC sector, when they had come out with a task force that was mandated to work towards ensuring that startups in animation, visual effects, gaming, and comic, for those that do not know, AVGC sector, are supported from the ground bottom, starting from ensuring that education by the means of incubators, skilling, ensuring that this starts from the level of schools. It was recommended that we add this to the curriculum of educational institutions. So that is where we are from maybe 3 years ago is when we started having the conversation that it's important to have startups within that space. A notable announcement of the task force was that Startup India market access be leveraged so that startups in the particular domain are able to grow. Talking about a bit about what Startup India is doing for startups in the country, we have about 5,000 to 6,000 startups that have been recognized in the AVGC space.
Right. Which is a huge step forward, yeah.
Yes. Here the government's focal point was that we do not ensure that only the deep techs or startups in the manufacturing space or spaces that have always been known to be the strong focus point of India, and that we need to move beyond that. The creator economy is supposed to be valued at so much more than where it was earlier if we talk about the global numbers. And Indian startup ecosystem has ensured that we are able to give the right amount of funding to such startups, where we introduced 3 kinds of funding schemes, if I were to talk about them. The Startup India Seed Fund scheme which was brought into practice to ensure that startups in the early stage, the prototyping stage, or startups that are not older than 2 years, are able to make use of the government fund, which could be by the means of a grant or by the means of debt, where we talk about CCDs. This was primarily done to ensure that most VCs, as we'd want to highlight, which was the traditional way of funding, as we talk about equity funding. Not most of those VCs would want to put their money in startups that are in a space which is not that widely popular, and B, they would not be able to put their confidence in those particular startups or would not want to invest in early stage startups.
Right.
So to bridge that gap, the seed fund scheme was started.
Right. I think that's a very interesting point. That kind of hesitance, that there's no clear ROI, and there's always that kind of hesitance that this is not something that invokes confidence in me to take a bet. Why is that hesitance, and how do we sort of bridge that gap? Because as Ms. Kaur also mentioned, that creator economy is only going to grow, it's here to stay. So we need to sort of build mechanisms that invoke that kind of confidence because, as Ms. Kaur said, that the investors have that kind of, they don't know how to circumvent certain obstacles when it comes to investing in a creator business.
Thank you very much for the question, and it's wonderful to be here at the Creative Economy Forum. I'd like to start by saying that this journey for, just come back to your answer in 25 seconds or more. The term AVGC got coined when we were creating the policy for Karnataka, and it's about 14 years old. When we talk about the task force, I was a member of it, and we had every Friday morning conversation when I was heading CII for that. It's really important to know that I think what we've really created, and I think the title of this panel is really important from that point of view, because this whole idea of creative Bharat and how do you create startups is not about VCs. Okay, I ran the largest content creation company in the world for 15 years until it collapsed and failed in February this year. It was owned by French hedge funds. So, and my team and I are 4 Oscars old, 7 Emmys old, many Cannes Gold, etc., which is that cherry on the cake. We never make anything for an award. We make it for a purpose and it wins an award afterwards. I'll answer your question by saying, I think where we are maturing today, Startup India looking forward to the 10th anniversary with the Prime Minister in the middle of January, so we'll be back here. We're helping to create an anthem for you. The point I wanted to make is that I think there are building blocks that need to be addressed simultaneously in order for this to come together. And it requires different types of funding for different asset classes from different types of funds to make it happen. And I'll summarize it in the beginning and we can talk about it if time permits. One of them is, skills on the way to creating the talent base. If we had double the talent that we have today, in the AVGC sector, we wouldn't be 1.5% of the world, be 3. Because the demand is there, we just don't have enough people. That's a different kind of funding. Yeah. Number 2 I'll come to is, the whole incubation startup story, which has happened in a large way. We created the first center of excellence in Bangalore with government funding, about 32 crores. And every single moment you have 14 to 18 startups happening there. There are 100 people that get awarded something called Elevate. In fact, yesterday was jury, I'll be in the final jury. And they give between 20 and 80 lakhs for that to happen. It's a pure grant. I've worked with the STPI, Ministry of Electronics and IT, has in the Northeast got 8 different centers that actually have funding. And I'm the chief mentor in Shillong for animation and Imphal. So there are many things that happen by different people. And I think the important thing now is to bring all of this together so that what happens is, I talked about skill, I talked about incubation. The third is very important. Capital for infrastructure. It's a very expensive business for people to go buy hardware, software, put up a data center. Storage and render are extremely complicated. Different type of funding needs to come in for that. And I think that's for infrastructure and production scale. The fourth one is tech. One of the issues that we talked about in this one morning, how many films India makes and so on and so forth. All over the world, where there is more funding, films are fully made before they are made. What do I mean by that? Pre-visualization and making sure that development really takes place, right? But that requires funding. So it's like in the old days, our parents used to say, "Ghar banane ka paisa nahi hai, to architect ko kaun paisa dega?" Right? Remember those days? It still happens. Similarly, the architectural phase of creating content doesn't happen. And therefore, we need funds that actually go into making development and so on for them. That's the fourth point, right? That's the tech point of view. And tech is making it happen. Yeah. In fact, AI is only available today at scale in the development of content. AI is not available for production. Anyone who tells you that film and TV can be made with AI has to speak to me. Because it doesn't have the fidelity of large screen. And the fifth and the last one is about regulation. How do you create the balance for that? I mean, certain parts of media, I don't have to go into detail, are constantly, waiting for clarity. So I think and the lesson there that we've learned, I think, as a country is one size does not fit all. And we need to therefore make sure that there is money available for things that actually are going to be developed. So I'll leave these 5 things, then come back to asset classes and capital later. But to finish, although we were the most accomplished team in the world, when we went for a quick round of VC in 2025, one VC wants to say कि उसने कुछ पैसा दिया तो हम भी follow करेंगे अभी आप इसको शुरू करिए, because they don't understand what we do. And 3 or 4 large VC funds told me later on, wow, we had no idea that this sector has this potential because we don't know this sector. But when you come for your next round of funding, please talk to us first. So I think there's also a little bit of understanding कि भाई क्या, what are they funding, what is the asset here, how is this production of content? I think we heard Mr. Baveja on the previous panel talk about how he's now raised capital in order to create a slate of projects that he'll develop, hoping it will happen. So I think that understanding from the VC community of what and how to fund these different 4 or 5 things is still far away.
I think that's a very interesting point you made, that a lot of there are very few people who have that kind of vision to put their money, on such a thing. But Mr. Nigam, weigh in on this, because I think one of the points that was made earlier as well, and that Mr. Ghose also made, is that you have to sort of balance between the creative side of it and also the business aspect of it. Oftentimes, when creators turn founders, or when quote unquote influencers turn founders, it's very difficult to strike a balance between creative indulgence and understanding the business side of it. So how do you see that kind of balance being achieved when creators turn founders? Because I think the real sort of potential will be unlocked when people who understand the creatives really sort of embrace the business aspect of it as well.
Thank you for the question. See, according to me, what I've learned in my life till now, I think whatever the business you're doing, it comes from the passion first. तो अगर आपका पैशन नहीं है तो आपका बिजनेस बनेगा नहीं कभी. और पैशन हमेशा क्रिएटिविटी से आता है, नंबर से नहीं आता. तो इट्स गुड टू हैव दैट पैशन एंड क्रिएटिविटी. बाद में आप 5 साल 6 साल बाद स्केल करके उसको बिजनेस में कन्वर्ट करते हो. हम बहुत लोगों को पता नहीं बहुत चीज़ें, बहुत से नंबर्स नहीं पता. फॉर एग्जांपल, समय राना का कॉन्सर्ट है कल यहाँ पे. 2 कॉन्सर्ट में उसके टिकट सेल हुए 90 करोड़ रुपए के. अब अगर वो वीसी के पास जाए और बोले इन्वेस्ट कर दो, तो आई डाउट, नहीं होगा. तो ऐसे बहुत सारे एस्पेक्ट से बहुत सारे लोग हैं. आप एक कंपनी देखिए, आपको पता होगा टीवीएफ ने आज की डेट में अपना बिजनेस इतना बिल्ड किया है कि उनका पर ईयर एनुअल इनकम रेवेन्यू जो है, उनका इनकम नहीं रेवेन्यू 100 मिलियन है सिर्फ यूट्यूब से. ये सारे लोग हैं जो क्रिएटिव थे और उसको उन्होंने इकॉनमी कन्वर्ट कर दिया. प्रॉब्लम क्या है, कोई भी ना ब्लूप्रिंट नहीं है. आप क्रिएटिविटी लेके आते हो, फिर आपको लगता है कि आप इमोशन वैल्यू लेके आए हो, इमोशन से बिजनेस नहीं चलेगा. बट आई थिंक इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट टू हैव सोल ऑफ क्रिएटिविटी एंड माइंड ऑफ बिजनेस. सो दोनों को एक साथ लाने के लिए हम लोग कुछ करना पड़ेगा. वी नीड, एज वी सेड, वी नीड इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर, जहाँ पे हम पहले लोगों को सीड फंड दें, उनको डेवलप करें, फिर उनको पैरामीटर्स पे लेके जाएं और फिर आगे इन्वेस्ट करें, उनको बड़ा बनाएं. So I think we just need to set a system. Then India is going to be boom worldwide.
I think that's a very interesting point you made, that you need to have soul, because ultimately, unless there's soul, no business will truly thrive or flourish in that sense of the term. Mr. Damodaran, would you like to come in on this? Because ये जो systems की हम बात कर रहे हैं, जो incubation centers की हम बात कर रहे हैं, where is this going to come from? Because there is massive potential that there's just waiting to be tapped. So to provide that kind of training, to bring in that kind of regulation, to systemize it or streamline it, where is that going to come from?
Before I answer that, we have got a very young audience out here. And, hi folks. How many of you want to become an entrepreneur going forward? The young audience is busy on their phones. Hey, hi, hello. How many of you want to become an entrepreneur going forward?
We can see some hands there at the back. Yes.
Okay.
A handful of them.
A handful of them. See, the one thing which is there is that the most important part today which we miss out is that when we go to raise money and raise capital, you have to be a storyteller. We lack that. And then we blame X, Y, Z. The most important part is, can you tell a story which can resonate and to the recipient can also believe that yes, this is what I want. So the most important part in anyone who wants to raise capital, and they have to be a storyteller, no doubt about that. And then we should actually do that. Unfortunately, our schools and colleges and universities don't do that, and that's where we lack one thing. See, the other part is that if you look at the ecosystem which came, say, just when Flipkart got acquired by Walmart, that was the time when the interest, became really big. Today, if you see from my experience, from a 25-year-old to an 80-year-old, everybody wants to be part of this disruptive piece and wants to that. But the most important part is that this is binary. Either you win big or you lose everything. So when you come at a binary, Are you able to do that? Like Mr. Ghose said, he was there willing and the VCs weren't able to, or the Ps weren't able to. See, at the end of the day, everybody, when you come back there, everybody talks about return of capital on return on capital. And if we say that you're going to have a 10-year timeline or a 7-year timeline with zero liquidity, how are we going to say that? So most important part is that if you can say big, if you can tell a story right, that becomes big. Coming to the accelerators and others and the regulatory part, so India's regulator is number one in terms of regulation. To form an entity like we have an AIF, and the kind of regulations which is there is that my compliance teams maybe is larger than my finance team, because that's how it has been done, which is good. Frankly speaking, which is good. Other thing is that many of the folks who actually make regulations, I'm sharing it, don't have skin in the game. So if you don't have skin in the game, then how are you going to, put across or understand the whole thing?
Yes.
So that becomes really important from that perspective. So accelerators will grow. In fact, I find, folks, who have had a great corporate career wants to be a part of it. That's a good sign of that. But for all of this, the most important part is, as someone who wants to raise capital, do we have a story, and do we have a credible story which can relate to?
I think that's a very interesting point, because whether it's a big corporate, whether it's a new startup, everybody wants to, especially nowadays, you're really seeing that kind of investment in storytelling. Every brand wants to sell a story that resonates across generations, across age groups. And I'll come to Ms. Prabhleen on that. But Mr. Ghosh, quickly, would you like to weigh in on this? Where does that story come from? That story comes from within. That story comes from random brainstorming sessions. Whether that story comes from an inspiration. How do you crack that storytelling bit, because that has become incredibly important, especially in the age of content?
What a great topic to take off on. For young people, please write down this name. Robert McKee, MCGEE. He has a big book, but it actually makes sure that you know what a story is, no matter what you do in life, whether you're pitching for a deal or you're making a movie or anything that you do. I would like to just start by saying, stories don't change. Packaging changes. So, my former company made Robin Hood in 1932, then they were involved in making it in 1965, then maybe in 80s, then the last time it was, about 8 years back, it's ready for another Robin Hood. What is Robin Hood? It's an outlaw who does good things for poor people. The story will not change.
Yeah, it's timeless.
But the packaging, the way you mount it will keep changing. So stories today, now we have, in front of us people with a camera, right? Most of us now travel abroad without a camera. We just travel with this. But in the future, you will be traveling just by wearing your glasses. So the way you create things used to be before or in front of a lens before. That was how stories were told. You need to be a good storyteller to even do that. But today, stories are made inside or behind the camera. So, for example, when we made, I'll just give you 5 movies, right? We made Jungle Book, Top Gun Maverick, we did Mufasa, did 700 million, we did Kantara, which just came out right now. These could not be mounted in the old days because the story could not be brought onto a screen. So you're going to see today that the world is changing through, we are in the business of fashion and content, right? You are in the business of content for fashion, I'm in the business of fashion for content. So we are all in the same kind of story. The important point here is that today the world is changing, and therefore as consumer tastes change, right? There is, besides the infrastructure and all that I told you, you take Disney, Warner, Indian companies, GOZ, these are actually in the international world, these are consumer product companies, they're not movie makers. Yes. The movie is only there to mount a title. The title has to become a franchise. The franchise has to go into becoming a theme park, on a cruise ship, it has to be back to school merchandise and so many things. So if you want to create the story for Sikkim, we need to make sure that we're not just making a movie on Sikkim. We're going to make sure that how does that actually create the franchise, right? Like, that's how people create, Dubai has been made that way, right? It's actually a story of that. So the answer to you is, we need the stories to be a Hollywood-style IP. We need a story to be a Silicon Valley type technology, and we need a story to be a Dubai style immersive experience. If you have these three today, blending of capital, culture, and code, you blend capital, culture, and code into a very powerful story, and you do it well, that's your hit show.
I think that's a very interesting point and very well put. That ultimately it's the coming together of all this, that synergy that makes it almost aspirational. That makes the story aspirational, and then that sort of fosters consumerism as well. And speaking of stories, Ms. Prabhleen, one sort of really fascinating story when it comes to India Inc. or when it comes to the creator economy or economy in general is the Make in India story. How do you see that vis-a-vis the creator economy? How do you see Startup India, for example, or governments fostering the creator economy with the Make in India story? Because that is one idea that really struck a chord.
Right. So here I'd want to talk about the one district, one product initiative of the government, where they wanted to ensure that they encourage artisans from each of the district of the country to come forward and create something that they are an expert at. So when we talk about this, we also talk about people that earlier did not have the resources to do something of that sort. So with the government's incentivization and encouragement, they were able to ensure that they have the right resources and the right network to do this. And a chain was started through that. And as of today, we do have one product that is a specialty in each of the districts of the country. So I think that is something that was done for the artisans. And talking about the creator economy, this mostly had come to the fora 5 years ago, when in 2020, COVID had hit and everybody was indoors. And people had a lot of time. They wondered what to do to kill their time while also make money. That is when most of the monetization through YouTube, all of the subscription models that we now see, all of that started happening. Some of my favorite creators that I really look up to, I think most of them started creating content during that time. And so many of those big giants capitalized on that. Internet was made cheaper so that more people could access that content, more people could just view that content and participate in some way. Like Sir mentioned, that there are regulations that are being made by the government to ensure that this journey becomes easy. I'm sure you'd know that the angel tax was removed on investments in this recent budget announcement. So that was also something that the government is trying to do, so that there's no additional tax that these startups have to pay whenever they raise investments above the fair market value. Also, there's another set of tax breaks that they provide to startups, which is 100% tax-free on your profits for a period of 3 consecutive years. So there are certain regulations that are being made for startups in the country to ensure that this is supported in the way that it should be. So, yes. Yep.
I think that's again a very fascinating conversation to have. But Sanjay ji, thoda, jaise Ms. Prabhleen also mentioned कि local artisans और इस कॉन्वर्सेशन को, इस क्रिएटर इकोनॉमी की कॉन्वर्सेशन को हम बोर्ड रूम्स से और दिल्ली, बॉम्बे, बेंगलोर से बाहर निकाल के किस तरह हम we take it to the grassroots, because that is where the real potential lies, whether it's rural artisans, whether it's our textile. तो उस potential को हम कैसे tap करें, because that will sort of increase the sort of volume of this creator economy manifold, because असली potential वहीं पर है.
इसके लिए ना आप लोग शो देखिए हमारा पिच टू गेट रिच. बट फ्रैंकली आप तीनों लोगों ने बोला जो स्टोरी टेलिंग, क्रिएशन और सारी चीज़ें, तो ये जो शो हम लोगों ने बनाया, अगर आप इस पे देखें, हम लोगों ने कोई बहुत मेट्रोस पे फोकस नहीं किया. हमने फोकस किया होम ग्रोन, मेड इन इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया. हमारा स्लोगन जो है पूरे शो का यही है, लोकल टू ग्लोबल. बिकॉज इतना आर्ट हमारे यहाँ पे है, इतना आर्टिजन है हर जगह पे, वो सब बाहर अप्रिशिएट किया जाता है, बट हम लोग भूल गए हैं कि उनको अप्रिशिएट कैसे करें. तो हमारा पूरा जो सिस्टम है वो इसके इर्द गिर्द दिखाई पड़ेगा. सिंपल, अगर आप एक ब्रांड को जो होम ग्रोन है उसको आप फंड करते हो, आप उसे परचेज़ करते हो, वो पैसा सीधे कारीगर को जाता है। अब वो कारीगर सिर्फ अपना ही नहीं, अपने आसपास अपने कस्बे हर जगह को डेवलप करता है। तो डेवलप टू इंडिया इन ग्रास रूट वी हैव टू इन्वेस्ट एंड परचेज। we should purchase more and more towards India, not outside of India. So this is one thing. Second, आपने बोला स्टोरी टेलिंग। तो मतलब आप जाके देखें हमारे महाभारत या रामायण पॉपुलर क्यों है? क्योंकि पहले हम बुक्स में देखते थे, फिर हमने टीवी में देखा, फिर मूवीज़ में देखा। तो अब वो किसी को दिखाना नहीं पड़ता, सबकी हैबिट में सारे कैरेक्टर्स भगवान राम या हनुमान जी सबको याद है, क्योंकि हमने इतना देख लिया। इसी तरीके से हमको ये स्टार्टअप और इन्वेस्टमेंट इन चीज़ों को थोड़ा इजी करना चाहिए। इनको हमने बहुत हवा बना के रखा है, लोग घबराते हैं, जबकि इतना टफ नहीं है, बट सुनने में बहुत टफ लगता है। ओ गॉड, शेर के सामने जाना है जैसे। तो हमने जो शो बनाया आप देखिए, इसमें हमने बहुत आर्टिस्टिक तरीके से, स्टोरी टेलिंग तरीके से उसको प्रेजेंट किया। अब आप इंटरटेनमेंट के एंगल पर देखते हो कि आप सामने अक्षय कुमार हैं, करण जौहर, सैफ अली हैं, बट उसके पीछे आपको पूरी लर्निंग मिल रही है। जैसे हमको ही नहीं पता बिड्डा क्या होता है, ये क्या होता है, बट उस शो में ऐसे बखूबी दिखाया गया है, एक आम आदमी उसको सीख सकता है। तो वी नीड टू क्रिएट मोर स्टोरी टेलिंग टूवर्ड्स द मेक इन इंडिया, टूवर्ड्स द इन्वेस्टमेंट। तो सब डेवलप होंगे और अपना काम अच्छे से बन जाएगा इस पर।
एक आपने जो बात कही वो बहुत आई थिंक रिलेटेबल भी है कि एक तरीके की, जैसे मैंने पहले भी कहा, हेजिटेंस है, घबरा जाते हैं लोग। एंड मिस्टर दामोदरन कम इन ऑन दिस बिकॉज वाइल ऑफ कोर्स वीड हैव अ मल्टीट्यूड ऑफ क्रिएटर्स टू बी एबल टू क्रिएट व्हाट इज कोट एंड कोट एन इन्वेस्टेबल बिजनेस, उसका एक बड़ा जैसा कि उन्होंने कहा एक बड़ा हुआ बना हुआ है, और लोग घबराते हैं कि हम कैसे जाके वीसी के सामने पिच करेंगे। वी माइट हैव गॉटन द क्रिएटिव्स राइट, लेकिन टू बी एबल टू पैकेज इट, जैसे कि आपने कहा स्टोरी टेलिंग, बट टू बी एबल टू ऑल्सो प्रेजेंट इट एज एन इन्वेस्टेबल बिजनेस एंड टू बी एबल टू विजुअलाइज इट एज एन इन्वेस्टेबल बिजनेस, उसके लिए आप क्या टिप्स देंगे?
नहीं, निगम जी ने सही कहा है कि हवा बना के रखा है। हवा तो कुछ नहीं है, एलिमेंट्री है, बेसिक्स है, और आपको बेसिक्स करना है। बिफोर वीसी केम इन टू प्ले कहाँ से मिलता था? फ्रेंड्स, फैमिलीज, और वहीं से तो पैसे आता था। सेम थिंग है। लेकिन मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है कि जब हम ले आते हैं कि चल वीसी है, पैसे दे दो, खर्च कर दो, doesn't work that way. Show me the thing is that besides storytelling, show me the numbers, how it will come. तो अगर हम एलिमेंट्री चीज़ें डाल देते हैं, in the sense that कि this is what my business would be, this is what my my early stage could get into play, and then you move. The most important part is like we have our own playbook when we look into the companies. We have got 16 odd points, and my team does it before it reaches us. So what is the solution? The most important part when आप share करते हो, the call to action is lies in 16th page. It should be in the first page or second page.
That's very important point. Yeah.
जब आप बोलते हो कि this is my solution, which can make an impact, which can create a revenue, and which can make a difference, and that's what comes into like disruption is great, but disruption without contributing or monetizing, and for the investors also to make money. For investors, just another asset class, which is coming to play. So if you are able to do that part, the most important part is that what you want to say should not be in the 15th or 16th page, just second page, up front, out there. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I need. And basic, be it English, be it Hindi, doesn't matter. Do you know two of the unicorns has come from Jaipur?
Yes.
Right? And Jaipur, and that too, elementary stuff karke. One of the fintech has come from Kerala before they moved to Bangalore. So it is no tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 छोड़ दो, अपने आप पे भरोसा कर दो, straight in the face front foot में खेल के पूछो कि this is what I get, this is what I want, this is what will happen, and this is the capital I need. The second stage, this is what I want. So what happens
This
is
is
that
what I want is very important.
No, what happens is that you come ill prepared.
Yes.
So when you say this is my immediate need, इसके बाद क्या? So what would happen in this stage when I grow from here to here? What next? So do you have a thought about that? We don't think about that. We have to think the whole spectrum. So that is where you become a true entrepreneur. See, most important thing which I have also seen, and others also, the panel, what you started out with, after a few years, it may not be the same thing. I have seen across my portfolio, what you started out with, pivot तो अलग ही होता है. But having said that, are you willing to put that 5, 7, 10 years? So that's where the bamboo story comes in big play. पहले 4-5 साल आपको कुछ दिखेगा नहीं, आप बहुत मेहनत कर रहे हो. Then, suddenly 6th, 7th year, you got a J curve. So are you willing to do that, That has to be done. Even look at Bollywood, Shah Rukh, he left, right, center. He was only meeting. He was shameless in asking for jobs. He was, the same way are you. So we have this, वो क्या सोचेगा? अरे वो क्या सोचेगा उसको पता ही नहीं है सामने लोग क्या. आपको सोचना है कि आपको क्या चाहिए. That's the most important part, and that's what,
Yes.
we walk the talk that way.
Right, I think that's very well put. You have to have the conviction, the resilience, and like you said, कि अभी जो आप देखते हैं paper में, the businesses started off in a completely different shape and structure, and what they've become is not even something that those people would have envisioned. I think we're running out of time, but we'll quickly do a rapid fire of sorts, and maybe we can pass that mic one after the other. We'll start with you, Mr. Nigam. Your favorite creator? Yeah, sorry, Mr. Damodaran. We'll start with you, and then we'll go.
So I'm biased,
Yes.
and my portfolio company, Vipul Agarwal from Mugafi.
Okay. Ms. Prabhleen, your favorite creator?
I think I lean towards the finance influencers a lot. So I think Sharan Hegde is someone that I really
Doing a great job. Mr. Nigam?
Obviously me.
Yes.
Because I'm creating,
No biases there. No biases there.
I'm creating a lot of opportunities for India. We're doing local to global. We're creating a lot of economy, ecosystem, and show on OTT.
And I think that's one thing to learn from Mr. Nigam. You have to be a shameless marketeer.
Absolutely, why not?
When you are a creator, you have to be and an entrepreneur, you have to be a shameless marketeer.
Brijesh is saying, मत सोचो कौन क्या सोचेगा.
Yes, absolutely.
खुद के लिए खुद काम करना पड़ता है.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Ghosh?
I think this is a seasonal answer. Currently, it is Rishabh Shetty.
Okay. Okay, and my next question is one trend that you think will change the creator economy in the next 5 years. One trend.
I think the trend is that you need to understand how to simplify your story. I think the simplification is missing. Less is more. When people are amateurs, they do too much, and you see that when you reach a masterful stage, you're telling it like it hits the bullseye in how it goes. I think the main thing that I wanted to respond is, I think we talked a lot about funding and VCs. Do you know, actually, like all audiences, every VC does different things.
Yes.
So people don't even know which VC to go to for which purpose. I think that also is something that can be guided. And people I've seen in Northeast and many places, when you talk of smaller places, they don't know how to make a business plan. They don't know how to answer these questions. We need a pre-pitch kind of a story. We need a whole mentorship that goes pre-pitch, right?
One trend that you think will change is perhaps a return of minimalism. Less is more, like
Less
you
is
said. Mr. Nigam, एक ट्रेंड जो आपको लगता है कि अब क्रिएटर इकोनॉमी में डिसरप्शन लेकर आए.
बहुत सिंपल हम लोगों ने बनाया है. पिच करो, रिच बनो.
Okay.
I think short form content has a long way
Yes.
to go because our attention span is just getting lesser and lesser with time.
Mr.
And
Damodaran.
I tend to agree with all, but I like to close with saying that a new trend will emerge which we don't know.
Okay. And my last question, we'll begin with you, Mr. Damodaran. One call to action or one pitch that young creators here, potential entrepreneurs should know before going to a VC.
Like Mr. Ghose said, कि देखो कौन सा VC क्या करता है.
आपके जैसे कितनों में उन्होंने पहले इन्वेस्ट किया है समथिंग दैट यू शुड बी वेरी ऑफ. एंड सेकेंड, जस्ट पुट योर पॉइंट स्ट्रेट एंड some bit of storytelling, as everyone mentioned here, is important because most VCs now tend to invest with how they feel about the startup and less about how well they are doing financially because numbers are easy to
जैसे आप लोगों ने कहा, बहुत रिसर्च की ज़रूरत होती है. अब रिसर्च करो. और दूसरा बहुत सिंपल है जो आपने पहले बोला, यू शुड हैव बीन लाइक गुड स्टोरी टेलर. 1 मिनट में अपना बिजनेस बता दो, अदरवाइज घर जाओ.
Like an elevator pitch is what we used to call.
If you are going to do any business, what problem are you solving? What problem are you solving? Sometimes the problem can be solved with a product. But actually today, if you look at the trend, problems can be solved by being a platform. So today what he's doing is he's a platform.
Yes.
People can come there, they can pitch, they can do something, and the platform increases. So you don't need to think of creating that pitch which comes to him. You can also think of being a platform. There's a huge play in being a platform today.
But know your problem statement.
Know your problem statement. Know what you want to solve. What is not happening today.
I think
He did
that's
something because it's not happening today.
Yes.
If there were 7 fashion funds, he would have started some other business.
Yes.
So that's.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thanks all very much. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you.
सामने